Welcome, everybody. You're listening to episode 40 of Larachat Live. I am your host, Eric Van Johnson, and I have a whole cast of characters with me today, starting with TJ Miller. Hi, TJ.
Yep. What's up?
Not much. Got J Mac with us as well. J Mac, how's it going?
Yo, yo.
And Matt Lance. Matt, welcome.
Thank you.
I like to introduce people because on the audio podcast, people need to associate voices to names.
Absolutely.
And so that's the best way of doing that.
That makes sense.
How's everybody doing? How's the week's been? It's been a couple weeks, 3 weeks since our last show. Anything exciting?
No, it's been cold.
Well, good. Let's wrap it up then. I think we're all good here. Yes, you're either. Actually, I have the window open. If you're watching the video, it's actually raining here in San Diego, which is a big deal for us. So everybody's all excited that there's some rain coming down. It's basically like snow out here. And I know TJ and Matt, you guys are putting up with some cold weather. How's it where you're at, J Mac?
It's the same. We're in the polar vortex of America 2019. It's so sensational. Just as like a quick tangent, like it's so funny. They come up with like these ever more slightly technical names to just like passively but yet funly like dismiss like the fact that our climate's going like total haywire.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
That's like,
Well, I tell you, one of the best things about being a developer is it's not an outside sport. So the worse the weather is out there, the more you can accomplish inside. So,
Although I did leave my beanie on from earlier for those that aren't on the video. Like I'm trying to stay warm. I got the hoodie. I can really bundle it up. In
fashionable.
Here. I'm just gonna do this the whole time. Yeah, there we go. Darth TJ.
We all got the hoodies, right? Yeah, there you go.
I'm in my
Matt, put it up.
clothes.
Put it up, Matt. Matt, put it up right now. There we go.
We're the
Hoodie
monks of Laraville.
Lara hoodies.
Oh,
Lara monks?
Lara
Somebody
monks.
should buy that domain right now.
I like that. Lara monks. I like it. Don't take it off. You gotta wear it the whole time.
Yeah.
We're wearing it the whole
TJ's
show. It's
in
hot.
there.
It's hot here in San Diego, though.
TJ's
Why
like
you
also
wearing
in
it?
the darkness, so it adds like that,
Just like
TJ's
dark
looks the
effect.
best, yeah, because it's dark where you are, and you got a
Yeah.
black hoodie.
He's the evil piece of the Larachat crew.
Yeah, he's the Sith master.
That's it, the Sith Master. That's what it is.
I have like 4 shirts that are not black. That's it though.
All right, so
That's awesome.
funny story. You asked me why I'm wearing the hoodie today. We have an office here at Diego Dev now, and it's really, I come in, developers come and go whenever they feel like it. And I get to the office today, and I'm walking around. I'm like, something didn't feel right, and I realized I forgot to get dressed this morning. I put on my T-shirt, and then I didn't put on a real shirt. And I'm walking around the office. I'm like, what's weird about today? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to put my shirt on. Funny to me.
I had like a similar. I was doing some coaching for like Laravel Shift, and I pretty much had this. I didn't have the hoodie on, but I had the hat on, the beanie, and they were like, "Oh, you look cozy," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, writing some code. Let's go."
So, man,
See, we call that a toque. So
what?
A toque.
Oh,
It's not called a beanie in Canada.
well, I normally call it a toboggan. Look, which is just if you're in Wisconsin, that's weird because that's like a sled.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
for
that's
us.
a sled.
But we grew up calling it toboggans. I have no idea why. And then I've
different.
tried to be more accurate with at least beanie or cap. This one's kind of more of a cap. It's got a brim to it.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about Laravel stuff.
I'm thinking coding and PHP, some general thing. Yeah. All right. So what's everybody working on? We've been head down on some event sourcing, and finally, as a team, we're finally starting to get our heads around it and move forward a little bit and figure out what we're doing and how to implement it. And man, I tell you, I'm really digging the whole event sourcing workflow, architecture, pattern, whatever you would call that.
Tell us what you're doing with like a real use case.
Right. Well, so we have a couple of aspects that we're going to apply event sourcing to. The big one, and I probably one of the more common cases, is for accounting. And so the idea is to be able to understand how balances get to where they're at, and you're able to track, okay, this person has this balance. How do they get this balance? Well, they made this
Gotcha.
purchase, they had this credit. But we're also doing a bunch of one aspect of the application is this editing of a map. So it's all about event management. Or one of the pieces of it is event management, and in closing certain entries and opening other entries and understanding capacities of entries. And all of this is ideally will happen real time during an event. And so again, event sourcing plays into playing back that event when management goes and they look at it and say, okay, what do we do at this event? And they can understand, oh, we opened these doors at this time because of capacity. We closed these doors. We did this. We did that. And so we're looking to apply event sourcing to that as well, which is what I'm excited about, because it's like, okay, this is cool, because this is another way of just watching exactly what happened when it happened. And it's, I don't know, I'm enjoying it. We did the whole playback, and where we built up a bunch of events and a bunch of things got populated in the database. Then we just wiped out our database with the exception of our event state database, and then played everything back, so everything got back into its state, and it's cool.
That's pretty sweet. I think it's cool to be able to, like, in that case, and kind of take that event and be able to like slide through the world too, and just be like, all right, so like at this, like through this 1 hour block, like what, like let's go from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and just see all of the things that happened in between here, and kind of be able to mark like, hey, like this was a success, this wasn't. Like that's I think it's a great choice for event sourcing.
Yeah, and again, the whole thought of having data available to you that you don't know you need yet. So in the event down the road, the client comes back to us and say, hey, we're really curious about how long doors were open for, like some sort of time span or some sort of analytics that we haven't thought of to track. Being able to play back the events and get those analytics out of it is really appealing to us. The client's really happy. That's what's important.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
What about you guys? What have you guys been up to?
I don't know. I started building an OAuth server today, so that's been.
I saw your tweet.
I don't know if I tweeted anything about the OAuth server yet, but
it was internal.
Yeah, it was our internal messaging.
Yeah,
it was on Twitter, but it was through a direct message.
Yeah. I don't know. So I've been between still slowly trying to like get back in. Like I was able to do like enough like contract consulting stuff. Like we talked about the last episode, like having to like go out and like buy a car, right? So I was able to get like enough like consulting coaching stuff out of the way to kind of make sure like that's all paid for a little while. So I've been kind of circling back to the course, and what I really wanted to start off with was like authentication. So I've been doing like all sorts of research on like different authentication mechanisms, like what works good in different cases. But at work, I'm kind of like rewriting our like main API. Like all the business logic I can bring over, but we just like developed a lot of cruft with some like tight deadlines. So I figure it's just a great opportunity before I like double the feature set to just rewrite it and port it into a new app. So with that, I'm trying to like rethink, like I wanted to introduce like people being able to like connect their accounts to other applications. So we have integrators who integrate with us for payment acceptance. And we figured it'd be really nice to be able to just like be able to toss a button and be like, hey, connect your merchant processing account. Well, that's all like OAuth. So I was looking into Laravel Passport, and I was just going through like all the issues and pull requests, and I just was like looking for more flexibility. So I spent like all day yesterday, like deep diving the code base, playing with it. And I came to the conclusion that I just like more or less just need to like roll my own OAuth server, and that's still using like the same core package, like the PHP leagues like OAuth server, but like re-implementing it into Laravel from scratch. Doing a lot of the same work that happened, like that Laravel Passport takes care of, but at the same time being able to like integrate it with finer grain control and be able to implement some stuff that is maybe on the horizon for the library or not. But I was able to kind of like get those things in there. So it's been like a day of just researching all the different grant types, going through like all of the PHP leagues code base and like understanding how that all works. And I think in like a couple hours, I was able to take like a fresh Laravel app, apply. I released like I open sourced an experiment for presets, which I know JMax got some thoughts on. And so I applied that to it and just kind of, I was able to get like the password grant up and running and all of the different like interfaces and models and like database schemes. I was able to get all that put together in a couple hours. So hopefully like tomorrow or early next week, I can like get through the rest of the grant types and see how it works. But it's a whole nother world. And then that kind of like spun into checking out like what OpenID Connect's all about, and just like a decent research binge, or like ending up with like a ton of code at the end. It was good, but
Yeah,
definitely mind bendy.
I kind of find myself getting lazy sometimes when I go to we just this week we need to do some ACL stuff, so some granular permissions based authentication. So you're authorized and then authenticated, or you're authenticated and then authorized to do certain things. And I just like I was going through the packages. I was looking at all the different packages, and like most of them were doing like 80% of what we needed, and we were like short like some things, and wasn't really happy with the way a couple things got implemented. And I found myself sitting there just being lazy and thinking, okay, I'm willing to compromise. Maybe I'll just go ahead and use this package, even though it's not what I really want. And then eventually I came to my senses. I'm like, no, kind of like what you said, TJ. I'm like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna have to do this myself, because the use case for how we're trying to implement for this client is very particular to this client. So chances are there isn't going to be a general package out there, and anything that's out there, I'm going to have to do a lot of tweaking on. So I might as well just start from scratch and do it myself. But yeah, I find myself, I get so lazy sometimes. I get ticked if I can't find a package for something. I'm like, oh man, am I gonna have to code this?
Yeah,
that's
kind of funny about that. I was gonna interject. I've been spending the last like 8 months doing nothing but Vue stuff, because I've been taking an old Angular app and rebuilding the whole thing in Vue for my main work. And then I've had 2 other little projects I've been doing, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do everything in Vue now. I'll just live and breathe Vue for a while. I'm cool with that. And I've gotten so used to just looking for packages for everything. I'm like npm, 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 and some more npm. Like notifications, screw it. I'm not writing those anymore. Done. And then there's this full page JS one. I don't know if any of you guys ever looked at that, because it's like it controls the scroll, so you have that full page feel that does chunks and stuff, which is what the client wanted. I've hacked so many little bits of that thing now to get it to work right for this one use case. But at the same time, I'm like, I really don't want to write a whole thing for this. So I'm like on the complete opposite side. I really don't want to write a full package for a full screen.
Yeah, I don't mean to come off that like I don't think Passport's like a great fit. I think it can fit a lot of people really well, but there were enough things that it was, I don't know, like 70% of what I wanted, and to like I could probably make it do all the things that I want it to do, but how much of a mess is that going to be? If I make up that gap and kind of like shoehorn it in, and then they come up with an update, like how much of that update is potentially going to be breaking what I'm doing, where I could just build it ourselves. And one, have like a very like also force myself to have a really deep understanding of like all the different pieces of OAuth, how all the different grant types work, and then also be able to sprinkle in some like more domain specific stuff along the way. And ultimately, like, if I get to a point where things feel really good, and I like the way that it's heading, I'll either like potentially package it up and like ship it as its own like authentication thing, or kind of turn around and look at like what can be moved back into like Passport, or kind of get with like the core team and see if they want to like just do like a fresh new version with all of these, because like a lot of the features that I'm integrating from the floor are like things that are being like requested inside of the library that I don't think are that easy to bring in without kind of restructuring the whole thing. So um yeah, I've run into the same thing with like Vue, and of course I'd love to have a package work and save me time and effort and documentation, and but at the same time, like, you've got to find that balance between like trying to shoehorn something in and potentially shooting yourself in the foot later, and like just do it now, and kind of take what you can, like learning wise, like take what you can from these other packages, but make it a little easier on yourself just by building the whole thing in the long run.
Yep, I'm with you. What about you, J-Mac? You're being awfully quiet over there.
Oh, sorry. I was just listening. I haven't done too much stuff with OAuth, so I was just soaking it up. Um, yeah, mostly just trying to get that fixer that I mentioned last time out. It's kind of a new shift. I'm trying to have that drop before Laravel 5.8, which is normally sometime in February, mid-February. So I'll have to build that shift as well. Although Taylor's always trying to put me out of business. He's, saying how, oh, I took this app that I had and didn't do anything, just changed the version constraint. So, which
It only
again,
took me 6 minutes.
yeah, which again, we've talked about it before. You can totally get away with doing that probably for several versions, but sooner or later you're going to kind of accumulate some technical debt. So I still, of course, recommend Shift. But anyways, I can't get this fixer out because I don't know, like everyone and their mom decided to upgrade like their old 4.2 application. So I've been doing crap load of like human services, which, there's the automated shifts, which by far most devs run, but every now and then you'll get a company or a team that's just like, look, we're focused on features. We don't care about learning the conversion, from 4.2 all the way up to like something LTS like 5.5. Here's the human services. And so, gosh, I've done probably like maybe 10 projects in the last week that are from 4.2. So it's just nuts. People, I don't know what the bug is. This is definitely the biggest week for those ever. So
Wow, that's banging through a lot of projects, man.
No
yeah,
kidding.
it's pretty cool. Like it's fun to see the old stuff, and then every now and then there'll be something that is rather interesting, and it's like, well, gosh, how would you do this in 5.7? Because either some features went away or whatever. So kind of to that package conversation. I mean, there's definitely some packages out there, but I'll spend 15 minutes at least just trying to figure out, is there a native way to do this? And I think that like really lets me get a different insight into the framework than maybe most people see, is kind of just like how does a old feature fit that was there in a new feature, and kind of seeing that time lapse happen within just a few hours instead of over multiple years where people kind of forget, right? They forget like, oh, we used to do things this way. So it's kind of interesting, and I think that's actually some stuff I'll incorporate into the talk at Laracon this year. So just kind of these hidden things of like, here's all these old like custom auth things that maybe you used to do, but like here's maybe the better way, or all these like old school exception handlers that like people wrote and were like, if the exception's this type, do this. Like you see a lot of old stuff, and you'll still see it in modern apps, but there's better ways. So
Yeah, we've got a couple like older 4.2 apps that are just uh, the way that they were written kind of circumvented, like they kind of coded around the framework rather than through it, and to upgrade them would be a monumental feat. And honestly, we're working on killing them off anyways. So rather than spend the time to upgrade them, like we're just going to get rid of them. One of the things looking back at those old apps compared to now that just drives me crazy is the configuration management. I don't know. It's it bites me in the butt every time. It's super confusing to figure out.
do you mean like how you did 4.2, like where it was like kind of compounded and merged with each other over and over and over, and you never really had .env really.
Yeah, there was no .env, and then it was like file named based,
Yeah.
like merging. So there was like this like hierarchy that it would like merge all the way through based on like folder and file name. And
Yeah, and then plus there was like, if you had in the top level of your project like an environment.php or something like that, like it was the magic one, you know, that like superseded all of them. It was like the one ring to rule them all. It was pretty crazy.
yeah, a couple of them we've like gone back through and just like added .v and like the .env package, and then kind of overloaded all of the like the configuration files because it was just too confusing to figure out like how it was loading them in production versus how we were loading them in staging versus how we were loading them locally. It's just like we could not figure out why, and so we just like added .env and overloaded them all.
You know, the configuration files are definitely, I talked about this in the Laracon talk this past year, the Laravel by the numbers, like from shift statistics, they're like the most changed file ever. And, you know, I've really been thinking lately on using that somehow to maybe try to contribute to core. I know like Taylor and gang is you know, they're pretty disciplined and they have their own vision. So I don't want to like override that in any way, but specifically for configuration, like there's honestly no reason for those files. Like if you think about it, like I those files really serve more as like an inline documentation than they do like developer experience. So meaning like it would be a lot easier, I think, now that people are more familiar with the docs are well written, they're searchable, they're available, to like go out there and look at configuration than having like 23 config files that change every version that you have to like kind of weed through and make sure, oh, it's, you know, the queue timeout is now called queue retry, you know, and now it's queue after. And it's just kind of like all these little changes where really maybe all that matters is just the env that you have set.
So are you proposing that you just start using that env setting in the code base everywhere you would?
Well, ultimately, I'm proposing
use?
that the if you run Laravel new and you have an application, I would say that let's just say half, okay? And I think that's probably accurate. I would say half the files in there are completely unnecessary. From a it needs to have these files to actually run, like plus I'm actually changing these files kind of thing, right? So that would be cool from a developer experience to just not have to have management of those files. So the config files are a big one. Maybe there's things like a lot of the app service providers are another one. Just, you know, spitballing.
Yeah, with all the packages that I built, this is kind of a technique I picked up from the crew over at Spotsy with all their packages. Like all of the service providers for those packages, merge the configuration in from like the packages like config file. So there's the one you can publish, but there's also like it can like merge the values in from that. So I think it'd be cool to just kind of have everything like auto merge from those files, and you really only publish them. And when you publish them, it's like a blank file, right? It's just like a blank PHP file with like the correct name. And then you can only add like, then you can just selectively add in the keys that you are actually using to change.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, so if you still end up with like 3 or 4 different files, you're only adding in like explicitly the things you want to override. Otherwise, it's just like automatically merged in. Keep it a little cleaner.
Yeah. So going back to like the 4.2 days where you had an environment specific config and you only changed the single key that you wanted to change, like have it be a little bit more like merge-ish or, you know, reductive than like, here's the whole thing, kind of do whatever you want at will, but you pretty much run the risk that definitely every version you're going to either have to go in and change and remember kind of what you changed versus what the new change is, and you're going to have to marry those up, which is it's really what takes the most time, and even for shift it's difficult to do. So it's annoying, even more annoying as a human.
Yeah, I've definitely been bit by that. And I think I remember hearing Michael Dorinda talk about something, I think in either North Meet South or Laravel News, about how he had upgraded, I think, Horizon. One of the key values changed in the config, and I think that caused a little hiccup or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see he's been doing a lot of contributing to Horizon lately. If
he's
you
pushing.
look at the repo.
He's pushing like a pretty insane amount of queue jobs, like queues and stuff through Horizon right now at work. It's I know he put the stats somewhere at some point, and it's a pretty impressive number of jobs he's putting through on like a daily basis.
Yeah, I was going back and forth with him on Twitter the other day. Like, even aside from the queues, he was talking about a lot of the stuff he was doing with models, and it was just like he said he had something like 400 models in his app, and like it's like 7 different database connections, and it's just like I'm not sure what the app was, but I mean it was just like it was blowing my mind.
Yeah, I know he works for like an ISP, and so they do. I think they do like server provisioning and things like that. And they have a bunch of dashboards that they work with. So, I mean, not that I listen to a show or anything. I only listen to our show. Just saying.
I know after I put my my preset out there, I know I caught a little flack from you there, JMac, using the the empty guarded and just
Well, that's
avoiding mass assignment issues.
yeah.
Empty guard all the things.
Yeah. No, it's actually it's nothing against that was kind of like the Laravel by the numbers, just kind of double whammy. I was just teasing you. So one, you had kind of the guard bit, and then two, you also were like overriding core inheritance with the base model, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. I know it's common, but it's just I talk about it in that of just like how it just kind of adds this and interjects this layer, and there's like other ways to grok the framework, like for with a trait, for example. But I definitely get if you need every model to have things, then yes, inheritance is probably the right choice. But going to the guarded versus fillable though, mass assignment's one of those things also that just I feel like could be a little bit better. Like
I agree with you.
I go the fillable route, and again, it's not bad. I don't want to complain. Other framework Rails, for example, does mass assignment, and they do it in pretty much the same way. But there are just a few nuances, like in Rails 5, that are just a little bit where it's just a little bit more intuitive. So, for example, a lot of people turn off guarded because the developer experience, if you go the fillable route, if you go whitelisting instead of blacklisting, you basically have to always have that field whitelisted. So when you add a column to your database and you run a migration and then you run save and you forget to put it in fillable, that thing's nulling out the whole time, or you're getting database errors because you can't put something in a non-nullable field. And you got to remember, oh crap, I forgot to add it to fillable, lame. But you're doing something very straightforward, very low level, like a create. You're not necessarily using a request or anything that quote unquote is insecure. Now, again, you can shoot yourself in the foot by running create on your own internal database, variables, internal pass around variables. Like it's not just requests. That's basically, a mass assignment type thing. But I would argue that the heart of mass assignment is to prevent against injection attacks through request data. So why can't fillable, the whole mass assignment thing, just be smarter that like, hey, I'm using request object data. Like, why can't there just be a little instance of request object? Okay, trigger mass assignment. Otherwise, it's just some array that I'm trusting you as the developer knows what's going on, and I'm going to go ahead and disable the mass assignment check for you. Like, I just feel like the framework could be smarter. I'm not saying it would get all cases, but there's got to be ways to make that smarter. And I'll probably look into it eventually, but just kind of spitballing.
You're implying that the mass assignment protection would only kick in if it was the instance of a request. Otherwise, it would say, "Hey, I trust you. You're the developer. It's in the code. If you want me to put it in there, I'll put it in there."
Exactly. And this is the trick. This is the harder part. I mean, it's definitely hard, which is it's not necessarily an easy problem. There's definitely what if you're submitting your form and it doesn't have all the bits of data, so you need to augment the data with like a couple fields, right, that are calculated or something. So you don't pass the request object anymore. You pass an object that has some request data, but also your data. So like, how do you kind of marry that up? So again, it's not a one size fits all, which is why this probably wasn't implemented in the first place, because Taylor and those guys are really smart. Like they definitely always have very crafty artisan solutions, but to see the pain of people going to the extent of basically just disabling using, guarded empty array for all their models clearly are just turning it all off anyways. So there's got to be a middle ground.
There should be a flex and fill.
What would
Or
that be?
flexible fill.
Flexible fill?
Yeah.
I think like I think the kind of coding style has also changed a little bit. I think kind of since mass assignment, I think since earlier days of the framework till now, I think there's kind of been a shift towards like really skinny, ultra thin controllers. Yeah. There's been like a transition between how much stuff you're like, what you're passing back to the model, like where you're kind of drawing borders. Like for me, I'm very strict about like the controller is like the furthest into the application that I'm allowing the request object to go ever. Like that's kind of like a hard border for me. Like the request does not pass here. Everything else is either like a DTO or something like arrays, but that's the hard line for requests. So for me, like being able to turn off, like just turning off the mass assignment is fine. But I think there was more of a tendency, like code style wise, to be like pass the whole request object into the model and deal with it there. And I think over time, that's just like that direction has just kind of changed. And I think mass assignments become maybe a little less relevant as time's gone. But I think it'd be like super smart to do something like that too, of like, hey, if this thing's an array, just pass it in. If it's anything other than an array, like apply mass assignment. Or if it's an object that's like implements array access or something, roll with that too.
Yeah, I think there could be just a tiny bit. And, there's all sorts of beautiful, very rich API type things like create or update, or first or new, or, first and create inside of Laravel. So, I mean, even if there was temporarily like this new concept of like a create from request, and that's the one that's now protected with mass assignment, but it takes a secondary argument of an array of merged, developer data, so to speak. And now it's smart enough to get the array of only items from the one. So again, it'd be a little bit verbose, and that might not be Laravel-esque, so it would need some refinement. I'm just coming up with ideas, but it's just one of those features, kind of to the point earlier, that I feel like there was some legacy in there, but it kind of like it served its purpose, like it checked the box of mass assignment prevention, but it's never really been revisited to see like how it should be evolved with the framework now. It just kind of got dumped in 5.0, and 7 versions later, it's kind of like,
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a piece that could use some evolution for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm gonna look at it.
I like that.
I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is.
I would say I like your ideas a lot there, JMac. So cool. All right, what else? What else we're working on? Come on. Any fun stuff out there?
Conference season is about to kick in for me, so like I said, I'm just trying to get on top of these shifts because I know my time's going to be super limited in the next few weeks.
Yeah, you've got quite a few lined up, man.
I say, where are you speaking at, TJ? Where are you speaking at, JMac?
Next week will be Sunshine PHP down in Miami, which is be a warm change from the -17 wind chill. And then got a little time off, and then I'll be at Midwest PHP in Minneapolis. So I'll go back to some -17 wind chill, and then I'll be off for a little bit. I was way more selective this year. Last year I did 13, so this year I'm trying to keep it single digits at least.
Nice. And you already mentioned you'll be at Larachat. You're speaking at Larachat this year, right?
Yeah. I was really excited. I put in like a couple silly 80s themed like abstracts. I submitted them, and Taylor kind of reached out to me on one of them, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's make it a little more advanced though, because I had like some Raiders of the Lost Ark, 80s goofy Indiana Jones, Indiana J Max stuff," and he was like, "Yeah, don't be afraid to go more advanced though." So we'll see.
Cool. What about you, TJ? Are you talking anywhere this year?
No, I was gonna talk at Longhorn, but that ended up being the same couple days as my wife. My wife just is like going back to school, and she's got finals the same days that the conference is, so I had to pull out of that one. So far nothing. Holding out for Wave.
Wave. Yeah, we are. So we've actually been working with Cascadia PHP. They're trying to move their conference around, and we're trying to make sure we don't bump into each other. So they've been messaging us, and it actually's worked out because we really want to go back to the Bahia because we really think that was like just the perfect kind of setup for what somebody would expect from a conference in San Diego. And it turned out that the dates we were looking for in September, they couldn't offer us. So we were kind of like thinking, okay, well, we're gonna have to look for another venue then. And then Cascadia reached out to us, and they're now actually looking to move their conference up and perhaps free up October. So now we're reaching back out to the Bahia and said, hey, do you have any time in October for us? And so we're still trying to nail down our venue. We're really kind of stubborn. We kind of wanted to be back at the Bahia because we enjoyed it so much. But
No, it was a nice venue. I will say, Longhorn kind of in TJ's boat as well. Like when I initially submitted a Longhorn, they had completely different dates, and then they kind of switched them like midstream to that first week in May. I think there was some holidays and stuff, and I get it. Like I'm only one person, but it was a little bit annoying from a speaker's perspective to be like, "Here's what I submitted. I want to talk." Like, and then like they kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're switching the dates." Is that still cool? And I was like, "No."
Yeah, we've had a lot of people reach out to us asking why we haven't opened our CFPs yet. And I'm like, we really want to lock down the dates before we do CFPs because we know how important that is to speakers, and so that's why we're kind of holding off. But it's when it does happen, everything's probably going to happen really quick. I'm thinking, we'll see. I hope we can get the Bahia again because I don't want to look for another venue, and B, I don't know. It was just a nice place to have the conference last year. So, what about you, Matt? Any conference plans this year?
I'm gonna go to Wave this year. Probably won't be going to Laracon.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's timing, and I've got multiple weddings I'm going to this year,
Including your own.
Yeah, and two other ones that are destination based. And to be blunt, it's not a cheap year. So I'm trying to pull back a little bit, and I'm also kind of hoping. One of the things, because after February, I'm taking a week off in February just to relax a little. But then I kind of want to be able to pick up all my open source stuff again and kind of rip a whole bunch of it apart. There's some interesting stuff I want to do with the Laravel Collective domain in the very near future.
Clean it up.
Yeah, and well, like the packages themselves need a bunch of stuff done just to service the community more effectively, and then the domain I want to do a whole new thing to, and there's a bunch of stuff going on with that. TJ's in on some of this, but we'll see where the rest of this goes because it's really just a baby idea right now.
TJ always seems to be the man connected. Like whenever there's something going on in the Laravel community, somehow TJ's connected to it.
I just like to help, man.
TJ helped me out this week with some Nova stuff, which, by the way, didn't work. By TJ, I meant to tell you.
That's not reflective of TJ. Come on.
to his defense, we were trying to build a filter, a Boolean filter in Nova. And to his defense, the filter worked. Like when you built it, it worked. And I haven't looked into it since. I just noticed the behavior. But it seemed like when you went to clear the filter in Nova, maybe you guys know about this, but so it was a Boolean filter. What it was a list of developer names, and you would check what developer names you wanted included in your result set. And I was struggling to get this to work. I was having all sorts of issues, and so I reached out to TJ, and we do a little pair coding in the sense that I watched him code, but he got the filter working so that we could apply the filter, and we got the result we expected. But the odd thing about it is when I went to clear the filter, Nova almost behaved like it was reapplying the filter except with nothing checked. So therefore there were like no results. But that it wasn't the behavior I expected. I expected for it to show everything again like it would have, when you first load up the page. So like I said, I didn't do a lot of looking into why it was. I hadn't reached back out to TJ yet to help me on it, but
I actually have a pretty good idea of why that's happening. So let me know. I can probably find some time like tomorrow afternoon or definitely on Monday.
Cool. It's good to know people, man. It's good to know people. That's for sure. Yeah, I've been diving. Good.
I just like to be useful and help out,
Yeah, I've been diving a little bit in Nova and in a little side project we have for our internal stuff, doing things because we work with different clients and they have different ticketing systems and different project systems, different task systems. I've been using Nova to start pulling in all these into one interface for myself and my business partner, John, so we can look at and see all the developers who are working on different projects. And we have like one point of understanding, what their workload looks like and tickets and, tasks and things. So it's been fun to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm liking Nova. It does scratch an itch for me, but
is that the project that you guys did because the dashboard didn't work?
Because the dashboard didn't work? What dashboard?
The Spotsy dashboard?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
No?
Yeah. It's kind of tied to that. Yeah.
Yes
Ideally,
or no? Yes or
yeah.
no?
Yeah. There are aspects of it that we were trying to do in the dashboard. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on it. Matt and Sean and I spent a lot of time on Spotsy's dashboard, and I don't know, all sorts of little kooky things going on in there. I eventually gave up on it.
We love you, Frank.
Yes, we do, Frank. Frank hung out with me at the last Larachat in Chicago. Matter of fact, Matt you were with us too, right?
Yeah, that was a really good night.
Yeah, the last night, Frank and a bunch of us went back to the hotel, and I don't know, we got kicked out of the bar because they closed, and we ended
sat
up drinking
in the lobby for a while and got loud in the lobby, and then that was something.
Like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we finally broke up.
The most epic game of Catan I ever played was with Frank.
Nice.
What's Katana?
Catan, Settlers of Catan. It's kind of like a niche board game.
Oh,
have you ever played that?
No,
yes,
I'm not much of a board game person.
My one friend has a wood cutout board that lays down all the plates in and stuff when you set up the map. It's really nice.
It's like it's like one of those, niche isn't the right word. It's like, I guess, click or I don't know. It's a very, like, there's a subculture of like Catan that gets really, really like hipster nostalgic with it.
Hipster keyword.
For the non-viewing audience, I also want to point out that I'm the only one still wearing my hoodie. By the way, my hat on my hoodie. So
to his defense, he's the best looking one with the hoodie up. So
thanks.
I need to put that out there.
Nice of you, Eric. Thank you. It's cool.
All right, where are we at on time? Anybody keep an eye on the time?
We got like 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Let's talk about
what do we want to wrap up with? Come on, J-Mac, you're the idea guy. You're the one. Like, we should talk about this, talk about that.
I meant to comment before I wanted to, say how cool I was with my hoodie, but I definitely have like a dev goal to contribute more to open source this year. So some of these ideas that I am kind of spitballing with Laravel, I am going to try to be more active at contributing to core with some of these. I mean, some of them are a little bit like drastic. So in a way, I'm waiting for 5.8 to drop so that way I've got time to build them. Like instead of have to build them on 5.7 and then worry that they're not going to port over that well. So I'm waiting till kind of things shake out with 5.8, and then I'm going to get a little more serious with some of these ideas to see, and like definitely bounce some of those things off Taylor too, like some of that developer happiness stuff, because I just think that in the beginning I definitely understand those decisions. Like I can relate to them, and you're kind of educating developers, you're growing your kind of community. So I totally obviously the care that Taylor and team now put into just the descending comments and the cascade, all that stuff, clearly it shows through. So it's one of those things where I don't just want to like go in there and rip it all out, that's never going to get merged. So I don't know, I might kind of bounce some ideas off Taylor directly and kind of see maybe what he's open to like allowing me to experiment with, like maybe even a potential like temporary fork of the project, just to be like, here's like a super streamlined version of Laravel that's still Laravel, like, but how do you like it, as far as like the setup? Is it foreign, or does it make sense now that you've used Laravel for 4 years? You know what I mean?
I think you also have like a very unique perspective into the framework, like being able to like on a regular basis kind of see how these things evolve from 10 projects from like 4 up to current across a week is like it gives you a very unique perspective into like how things have changed, who's doing what, different patterns, different techniques, who's abusing what parts of the framework, who's explicitly turning off fillables, and not everybody gets to see that stuff.
Yeah, that's true, and I definitely want to be careful that that's not biasing me like towards a the other direction, so to speak. But I mean, even Taylor admits like freely, in his snippets and podcasts and like past talks, like he's totally prone to like just having closure based routes. Like he doesn't always make controllers, and he kind of really does things almost kind of scripty sometimes. So he's not even leveraging like all the features that are in there. So it's just I think there's this assumption that like Taylor and crew know every bits of Laravel, but I mean it's so much larger than even them now, that it's one of those things that really no one person can like have it all in mind, all features perfectly thought out, So it's a big community now. It's huge.
Yeah, and that's one of the actually really funny things is if you ever talk to Taylor, especially about the framework, I mean, he'll sit there and go, yeah, I don't remember how I did that. I have to go look at the code again. It's like, yeah, he doesn't. There are aspects of the Laravel code base that have exited his mind as well. So.
It's a big framework. There's a lot going on. There's like a lot of nooks and crannies and like really cool stuff. And I find myself pretty regularly like diving through the code framework, and there's all sorts of like fun stuff you can get just spending like an afternoon going through all the code and like finding new ways to do stuff that who knows where they came from.
Well, and to be fair, it's a framework on a framework, I mean, it's Symfony as a service, as Taylor would say. So it's one of those things where like, the parts Taylor's written are very streamlined, very clean, well documented, but a lot of them are also just wrappers for underlying Symfony objects, or they tie them together with a few contracts to make them, a little easier to work with as far as the API goes. So it's a lot. Yeah. All that to
Symfony,
say, it is a lot.
Yeah. What was that, man?
I just said Symfony is heavy. Even when you dig into Symfony parts, it's like, those are the days where I'm actually the most grateful of Laravel parts, is when I'm actually having to dig deep on what I'm trying to do, and then I'm hitting parts of Symfony, and it's like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna really quiet everything down now and get in my space.
So I had
Going through
Go ahead, TJ.
Going through the like spending most of today going through the PHP leagues like OAuth 2 package. It's definitely a different style of code than I'm used to, and I don't know, it was a very interesting experience. I mean, I get the same way with like Symfony too, but it's sometimes I really appreciate that because it's very different from what I do on a regular basis, like with Laravel and the way I code inside of that framework. And diving through Symfony, it's sometimes like really verbally a different way of doing things, but like I appreciate that stuff too. And yeah, like just going through a lot of the league stuff, there's real interesting and different styles of code through there that I'm not exposed to on a regular basis. Pretty cool.
I think the ice is starting to build up on TJ's internet connection.
Oh yeah.
Going Robotronic.
Yeah, you're still coming through, but you're barely making it, man.
Oof.
All right. So real quick, I do want to toss out there. I had kind of a pleasant, interesting thing happen that I guess I hadn't thought of in a long time, and was pleasantly surprised that it was requested. We run the local user group here in San Diego, and we meet once a month, and we just do a little get together and typically do some sort of presentation. And so we asked last month, what presentation would people be interested in seeing? Like, what things were the people working on that they wanted to see a presentation on or had an interest in, and got an overwhelmingly recommendation or suggestion of a intro to Laravel again. I'm like, holy smokes. I haven't done an intro to Laravel in so long because I don't even think about it anymore, but it's at least here in San Diego, there's still enough of an interest for people who still are looking to kind of make their way into the Laravel framework. That was kind of cool. So if you're listening, good.
No. Finish up. Sorry.
All I was going to say is, if you happen to be listening to this or watching this, and you're in San Diego, and you want to learn more about the Laravel framework, check out the SDPHP on Meetup, and I will do a presentation here in a couple of weeks.
And for those that are not in the San Diego area, a couple, well, actually, I think early this year, I posted a poll to see, if I did an online workshop, like around Laravel, like what would you be interested in? Like a getting Laravel kind of thing, just like a virtual conference, if you will, a couple hours, just remote over Zoom or something. And, I had a couple funny things. Like I was like, I'm a Laravel elite, like, don't, just, one of those options where you can see the results, you're not really voting, just something silly. And, so once you backed those out, it was actually, the majority wanted to see and then again, this maybe got like 200 votes. Like it's not a huge, census or whatever, but like at the same time, like, most of them were the getting Laravel. So I do think that I'm going to do maybe like a 3-part like workshop where it's like 2 hours, and maybe do them every 2 weeks, and they kind of build. So like, yeah, if you're new, you can go to the new one, and if you're not, it'll kind of hit. But I just, generally speaking, I think the beginner to intermediate audience of developers, there's a gap there. There's definitely code, camps and all sorts of reasons. There's Larachat, there's tons of great materials in the development community in general, but specifically the Laravel community as well to get started. And then there's excellent like resources to like go deeper in the code or enrich very specific things in your code, like testing, Adam Wathan's, test-driven Laravel. So like, but you're not gonna go there after being a beginner. Your mind's not in testing yet. Not to say that course doesn't benefit you, but just saying it might be a bit beyond you. So I think it's an underserved market is the long story short. So I want to try to fill that again with the insights that I have from Shift, like maybe do some kind of virtual conference, not to take away from Larachat by any means, not that I ever could, not to take away from Laracon Online, which I actually found out I'll be speaking at last minute. So that's awesome. So I'll be on that. But, that's more of a scattershot, that conference where you see all sorts of things. But this would be very focused to that beginner market, and then maybe the intermediate market. And then from there, it's like, here's these other things go look at, go get a Larachat subscription for more. But like getting the ball rolling, I just think it's an underserved market sometimes. And it's probably not my direct audience. So I wanted to put it on here for those that are listening. That I'll be posting some of that on Twitter. I'm at Gone Dark. So I hope to release maybe a splash page with like a schedule. And they'll be like super nominal costs. Like, These aren't going to be hardcore conferences. They'll be virtual, much like Larachat Online. I think they set a good precedent of like a $15 type thing, you know? So.
Yeah, I was just happy to see that there was still such an interest from people who weren't already established with Laravel, who are still interested in that intro. So, all right, cool. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? I think we're at a good spot here to wrap things up. I don't know. Just putting that out there. I have got to get to the gym. I mean, I'm looking at myself at Hangouts. You guys don't talk enough. My face is up here way too much. I got to get to the gym.
Camera adds 15 pounds. Don't worry about it.
I got like 3 cameras on me. So what's that? 30, 45
That's 45
pounds?
Dude. Come on, do math.
Yeah,
Come on. You're a dev. You're a dev. Do math.
I actually set up a bike. So I have my stationary bike in the basement, which is beside my fiance's stationary bike. But then I bought a new bench and got all my dumbbells again for the second or third time now in my life. I've rebought a whole stack of dumbbells, but this time I finally got rubber coated, which is what I've always wanted.
Ooh, you're an adult now.
Oh yeah, I love those things. And then
Matt, for those that haven't met Matt in person, the dude's like a V. He's just like his shoulder. It's like Mr. Olympia. Like he's just got broad shoulders. Maybe you should get on that bike more. You know, balance it out.
I got big legs. That's what it's all about. It's all the big legs.
I didn't check those out. Sorry, man.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm concerned about how much you did check out already, J-Mac. Just gonna.
I was scoping him, dude. He was a B dude. I wouldn't want to mess with him. He's like big upper body.
But I'm all smiles.
You are
all
all
smiles.
right. I think that's it then. I'm calling it. What did I say? This was episode 40.
I don't know.
That works for me.
January 2019.
That's right. January 31st. Thanks for everybody listening. Thanks for everybody joining us. J Mac, TJ, Matt, thanks for being a part of this. Sean, we really don't know what happened to Sean. He's wandering the woods somewhere. Nobody actually misses him that much, so we haven't sent anybody looking for him. Maybe he'll be back next time. We'll see. Thanks everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Yep.